Greetings. Let me share with you what I have learned about preparing the endoscopy unit during the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to thank grant support from John Stroline Endowed Professorship, Charles Butt and H.E.B. Grant, and Angela Deal for her medical illustrations. I would also like to thank all my colleagues from around the world who have contributed and have written in great detail about how to prepare for the COVID-19 pandemic. And based on this reading, I tried to summarize to make it easy for us to plan our endoscopy units. These are the different topics that I would like to share with you, but for now, my goal is changing the endoscopy workflow. So you may need to think about how your endoscopy unit is structured. Most of us have a reception area, preparation and recovery area, endoscopy rooms, and disinfection and storage areas, break rooms, conference rooms, restrooms, etc. And we need to look at all of these and make some important changes. And let me go through what all we need to do. It's important to restructure the workflow and try to consider moving COVID-19 patients to specific areas in the reception, in the pre-op and post-op areas, specific rooms for their procedures, as well as assigned rooms for restrooms as well, if it is possible to do that. Next, coming to the reception, there should be a clear instruction when patients check into the reception area. Of course, we should screen them the day before to check if they are at risk for COVID or if they have fever. In that case, they should go to COVID treatment areas. If not, we should encourage them to do proper practice cough etiquette, give them a face mask and ask them to use the face mask properly, encourage them to do the hand hygiene, and encourage them to sit at least more than 6 feet or more than a couple of meters of distance away from each other. And if they use the restroom, to close the lid before flushing to prevent aerosol generation. The reception staff should protect themselves by wearing mask and gloves. Of course, before the beginning of the day, they should clean their work area with virucidal wipes, computer, keyboard, mouse, telephone, etc. And they should do that when they come back to work after a break as well. Coming to the workflow, I will take you through what the staff should do from the time they leave home coming to work, and what do they do at work, and before going back to home, and what they should do after they reach home. This is very important. We have learned that it is a good idea to have a hairnet and have a short hair so that you don't have hair getting exposed for the airborne transmission, and also a good idea to have no beard if possible, because the N95 mask will not fit well if somebody has a beard. One should wear easy to wash street clothes or another pair of scrubs coming to work along with slip-ons. Avoid shoes with laces that could actually gather dust when you don't tie them properly, and another source of fomite transmission. Avoid any ornaments, especially wristwatch, rings, etc., and avoid wearing any lanyards that can dangle and can catch the virus. I've read in the Wall Street Journal that a physician shared that she puts the phone in a see-through plastic Ziploc bag that is easy to wipe. Another interesting idea to keep in mind. Once the staff enter the hospital, in our hospital, we screen them for symptoms and fever at the point of entry. We ask them to do hand hygiene, and then we give them a mask at the point of entry. If it's not there, you should at least do that when somebody comes into your endoscopy unit. And we should encourage them to keep the surgical mask on all the time till they leave the hospital. And nowadays, the government is encouraging us to wear a mask even when we go out of the hospital in public places. So it's a good idea to keep the mask on. If you don't have a changing room, it's a good idea to change one of the rooms, assign one of the rooms into a changing room for the staff, and encourage them to change into hospital scrubs from the street clothes, and also change into hospital footwear. These scrubs and footwear, you probably want to leave them at work or recycle them at work. When I say recycle, put them to the wash there. When you are in the changing room, wear a hairnet, put on the shoe covers. In terms of the break room, the nurse manager or the director should put a notice on the door and inform all its staff to perform thorough hand hygiene before entering the break room so that they do not carry the virus into the break room. One should practice social distance of at least 6 feet. They should sit facing one way. They should not be sitting facing each other. This is to avoid airborne transmission or droplet transmission to other colleagues. Once you finish your work, you come to the end of the shift, you go back to the changing room, remove your hairnet, remove your shoe covers. You should go and have a shower before going home, and then change into street clothes and slip-ons so that you don't carry the virus home. Once you go back home, you should disinfect your keys, phone, wallet, ID card, etc., and keep them in a separate brown bag so as to not contaminate various stuff in your house and contaminate your family. You wash your clothes that you bring back in a separate washer and a separate load from the family clothes. How about restructuring the endoscopy rooms? If you have the facility to turn on your negative air pressure, make your endoscopy rooms into negative air pressure. And if you don't, try to use large ventilated rooms for endoscopy, especially for COVID positive cases. Assign longer time slots because it takes at least half an hour to 45 minutes to disinfect the rooms after a positive case. Keep the rooms free from clutter so that your cleaning will be much easier, and develop a signage on the door saying that procedure in progress, do not open the door. If somebody opens the door in the middle of the procedure, the negative air pressure effect is gone and there is going to be contamination. Let's talk about disinfection of endoscopes. If possible, consider disinfection in a separate area or in a designated machine. And to avoid splashes, probably a good idea to have a splash shield in the disinfection room above the sinks, and consider keeping endoscopes from COVID positive patients separate, so that you have a separate list of scopes for COVID positive patients so as to minimize contamination. This is very important, keeping a note of the supply chain. We should keep a note about the stock of the PPI that is available in the endoscopy unit and in the hospital. Keep a note about the daily burn rate of the PPE and supplies, and also expected delivery of PPE. This is crucial to keep your unit running for those emergency cases during the COVID-19 pandemic. How about conferences? One should cancel face-to-face conferences and instead use teleconference. This is what we are doing in our own institution, and it is a good idea to take time before the pandemic hits your area to train your staff in infection control. This is really critical. You may want to assign a room for donning and doffing of PPE, and you should train your staff in proper hand hygiene using soap and proper hand hygiene using sanitizer, hand sanitizer. You should also train your group in proper donning and doffing of PPE. In a recent study that was published just last year, looking at people that were doffing the PPE just last year, 2018-19 time, 90% of them had errors in doffing. It doesn't really matter. You may have an N95 mask on, and if you do not doff it properly, you are going to contaminate yourself, your colleagues, and you're going to not break this pandemic. Hope this summary is useful, and I suggest and encourage you to go through your unit, see what all you can do to help and break this pandemic, or flatten the curve, as the experts say. Thank you.